Hello and welcome to The Frame. We begin this week with the most recent school committee meeting, as Framingham education leaders were recently informed about the results of this past spring's MCAS exams. In short, the State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education determined that the city's school system has shown, quote, moderate progress towards targets, as the district as a whole was not determined to be in need of any intervention. This year's MCAS scores within Framingham Public Schools were still below the average within Massachusetts. Scores in grades 3 through 8 locally were between 17 and 20 percentage points lower than the statewide average in math, ELA, and science and technology, while those same scores in Framingham for those in grade 10 were between 5 and 14 points behind those averages across the state. Still, Framingham's Assistant Superintendent for Pre-K through 12 Education, Ann Ludis, pointed to positive growth along with upward trends for high school completion, achievement, and English language proficiency across the school district as signs of encouragement.
While we have certainly made some gains in this last year, there is so much more work to do.
Ludis did tell the committee last Thursday, October 9th, that multiple schools in the city, including Framingham High, were determined to be in need of some targeted support, though King Elementary was recognized as a school of recognition, just one of 61 across Massachusetts with that distinction. Ludis explained that going forward, FPS will strengthen their instruction based on statewide standards while putting a quote-unquote targeted focus on chronic absenteeism and expanding educational opportunities for students of all ages. Superintendent Dr. Robert Tremblay stressed that dynamics, targets, and situations across the school district can change, adding that education officials will continue to work towards identifying strategies that work for local students.
And so I want to make sure we're not doing this to say this is the top school and everybody else is lesser than. Everybody is doing their best to lift all of our children. Those demographics change year to year, the profiles change, the complexities change. But if we can find that recipe that works, that's the one we'll adopt.
As Election Day gets closer and closer, we continue our series of interviews with candidates in key contested races within Framingham. This week, it's a spotlight on the District 8 City Council election, as incumbent Leslie White Harvey will face challenger John Stefanini. If you remember, this is a rematch of the 2023 race in District 8, as White Harvey defeated the then-incumbent Stefanini to claim the seat. Now, for full transparency, we were not able to speak with Leslie White Harvey prior to this recording, as she has not answered any of the Frame's multiple inquiries to speak. More details on her campaign can be found on her Facebook page, facebook.com/Leslie4CC. We did speak with John Stefanini, though. Here's a preview of that conversation.
I feel like South Framingham has always struggled to make sure that its residents' voices are heard in the Memorial Building. And it's a challenge, and I feel like we're not being heard.
Candidates involved in the contested city council and school committee races this year, including Stefanini, took part in a debate forum hosted by MCAS Framingham at Edwards Hall in Saxonville last Thursday the 9th. Most of the city council candidates in districts 2, 3, 4, and 8, with Leslie White Harvey being the one exception, along with those running for the District 2 and District 6 school committee seats, were present to discuss some of the major topics facing the city ahead of Election Day in front of local residents. That full forum can be found on MCAS Framingham's cable and YouTube channels. Additionally, on Saturday, October 18th, Energize Framingham will be hosting a candidate forum regarding climate-related topics. Mayoral candidates Charlie Sisitsky and Jeff Epstein will be there, while city council candidates in both contested and uncontested races have been invited to speak about their stances on sustainability and environmental topics. The event will be held at First Parish along Vernon Street from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. A reminder now that the deadline to register for November 4th's election in Framingham is Saturday, October 5th. You can do so in person until 5 p.m. that afternoon, while the online registration deadline is 11:59 that night. More details on the top stories that we cover every week on the show can be found on our website, www.theframe.news. We've got you covered with full written articles, feature pieces completed across the city, and a calendar filled with upcoming community events. Be sure to subscribe to our email newsletter as well, so that you're always up to date with Framingham News in Focus. Local officials announced on Wednesday, October 15th, that 4 adults have been displaced following a house fire off of Brook Street. The one-alarm blaze began that afternoon as firefighters responded to the scene along Audria Road. Unfortunately, Fire Chief Michael Dutcher confirmed that the home is a total loss, though no firefighters were injured. The cause of the fire is being investigated. Framingham has been given a $100,000 grant for the construction of an accessible stretch along the Getchell Nature Trail. The middle portion of the accessible trail along the Sudbury River will be built through that grant, which was provided by the state's Mass Trails program, along with $30,000 that was given by the Solomon Foundation. The locally allocated dollars are part of $7.5 million approved earlier this month by Governor Healy for trails across the Commonwealth. With October in full swing, a note on a trio of upcoming events happening locally. First, the Memorial Building will be the site of the annual Spooktacular on Tuesday, October 21st from 4 to 6:30 p.m. Families are invited to dress in their best Halloween costumes and trick-or-treat around City Hall as free candy, live music, and more will be provided free of charge. Also, the city's Parks and Rec Department will host their Pumpkins in the Park event this Saturday the 18th by the Children's Grove Playground at Cushing Memorial Park. The sensory-friendly event will feature hay rides, arts and crafts, and more from 1 to 3 p.m. that afternoon. Online registration for the event can be found on the Parks and Rec Department's website. Finally, the Framingham History Center's Haunted Trolley Tours will be taking place from 1 to 6 p.m. next Sunday, the 26th. Guides and reenactors will be diving into the mysteries of Framingham's past, with games and other offerings provided. Log on to framinghamhistory.org to learn more about that event, and stay tuned to The Frame later this month for more coverage on those tours. More local journalism coverage can be found on our social media pages. Follow us on Instagram at frame.news_ and search for The Frame on Facebook as well for additional content. Subscribe to Access Framingham's YouTube channel and hit the bell icon there to be notified whenever new content is published. We also release full episodes of our weekly news program on Spotify for you to listen to or watch. That's all for this week's Framingham News in Focus. For everyone here at The Frame, thanks for joining us. My name is Brendan Fitzpatrick. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.